Hi, and welcome to How to Pull a Report based on budget number and by organization code. This is Kelly McGarry with Travel Services, and we're going to be taking a look at how you can pull travel reimbursement reports for the University of Washington based on budget number and as well as organization code. So there's a couple different reports that we're going to take a look at, and let's go ahead and get started. And so first things first, you need to log into Ariba Spend Management. If you haven't seen Ariba Spend Management, this is a financial platform that we use at the University of Washington that is used for all kinds of different financial functions. But for this, we're going to be taking a look at travel specifically, and then specifically reports related to pulling travel reimbursements. And so to get there, if you come to this manage button here at the top, if you click it, it'll give you a little drop down, and if you click these arrows, it'll show you the full list. So if you don't see your reports initially, just make sure you click that arrow, and then you're going to click reports right here. And so you can pull reports for different things, but when we're talking about travel, we're talking about expense reports. So if you've worked for other companies, expense report could mean different things. For the University of Washington, expense report is specific to travel. So you're going to click expense report here. And so the reports that we're going to be taking a look at are these ones at the bottom. And so they're the two different reports that we're going to pull. We're going to look at expense details group by expense report and expense details group by expense report for a specific organization code. So for the budget number, we're going to be select this first one, and then for the second one, for the organization code, then we'll be taking a look at that second one. And just so you know, I'll be actually pulling the report, and then I'll kind of highlight some information about why it's useful and kind of how you can sort it, and just a little background on like what departments are using these for, just so you know kind of what the added benefits are. And we'll go ahead and start with, these reports are very similar. It's just we have one that's specific, so you can do it based on our code, and then another one based on budget number. So let's go ahead and start with budget number since it's the first one. So if you click this little dot right here and then click next. So these are the few different sort of filters that you can set it by. So we're gonna be taking a look at a budget number, but just know that you can also do a search based on preparer as well as traveler. So those two options are there. All you have to do if you want it sorted by a specific preparer is you just come here to the select button, select from list, and then you can search by their name or the UW-Net ID. We always recommend going by the UW-Net ID since that's unique to that traveler. It's just the easiest way to find people. So if you know their email address, you can just put the net ID in there. So there's a couple of good filters to know about. And then the one we're talking about is going to be budget number. So you'll need to obviously get that budget number, and then you're going to punch it here. I'm going to be using one of the budget numbers from our central finance. So that's 143735. But again, obviously you'll be entering whatever one you're trying to search by. And kind of one of the biggest parts, so a couple things here. So you can set the filter for date submitted. So this is where kind of the added benefit or the detail comes into these reports. So this is very dependent on just what information that you're trying to acquire. And so if you're trying to do, just a monthly report to figure out what your spend is on this budget as far as travel reimbursement, that's one thing you can do. You can also go back to, look at the past year or the past, quarter. So, and another good thing to know is that you can customize it as well. So these are kind of like the predetermined ones you can select. But if you come to custom at the bottom, then you can actually set the date range yourself. So definitely good to know that you're not limited by these choices. You come to custom and you come to this calendar right here, and you can set it to any range that you would like. One thing to know, one limitation with the reports that does come up is it does limit to 10,000 fields on Excel. And so if you're trying to go back and look at something from the entire year, or maybe depending on how high your volume is in your unit, just be aware that there is that 10,000 limit on Excel. And when you download the report, if if it did hit that mark, like if it was more than 10,000 lines, it gives you a little indicator at the end of the Excel saying that the report was not able to process all the lines. And so it's a pretty easy fix. All you need to do is just come back, run the report again, and just realize, okay, that was too many fields. And so you'll just need to break it apart into multiple reports. So usually what I do when I run into that problem is I just identify, okay, that was more than 10,000. And so instead of pulling the past year, maybe I'll pull the first 6 months, and then I'll pull the next 6 months after that. And then if maybe that was more like 6,000 line items for each of those reports, and then I don't get that error. So it's an important thing to know about with the Ariba reports, and that's for all the reports that you pull. It's just a limitation within the system. So it's not just specific for this budget number one. It's anytime you're doing a report, it's going to be that 10,000 line item limit. So just line limit in Excel. So just keep that in mind. And then what I usually do is I go to the report, I check at the very end, and just make sure I didn't get that error. And that way I know that I'm getting all the data that I was looking for. So just a little background on that. And let's go ahead and pull a report. So I'm going to go ahead and set it just to be last month, just to keep it easy. And so you'll see, so that will be, it's going to be pulling all of the reports from February. So I'm recording this in March of 2020 right now. And so that's why it's doing that. Okay, so, and once you get, and another thing, is you can select the format that you would like the report to run in. And so I'll show you HTML real quick, but just know you can pull it as CSV. CSV is very simple, just a more kind of basic version of Excel, if you know what CSV is. And then most people tend to pull these reports in Excel. And so I'm going to show you more detail in Excel, but let's go ahead and just run it as HTML so you can kind of see what that looks like. What it'll do is it'll just pop it into another window in your browser. Will take a second to load. And so we didn't have a whole lot of travel last month, so we just have a couple of expense reports here. But you can see that it'll show you in the HTML version. And so since we didn't have a whole lot of data, I'm going to go ahead and up this just so we get a little bit more, some more choices than that. So let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and do the last year, just so we can get some more information to work with. And I'm going to switch it to Excel. Okay, just took a minute to pull the information. And so then in the bottom left, you'll see that it will give you the report. So downloaded, and kind of depends on what browser you're using. So I'm using Google Chrome right now, and Google Chrome, it shows in the bottom left. If you're using a different browser, it may be different. But once you click download, it should go somewhere on your computer. Just make sure you pull the report from there. Okay, and then let me switch my screen so you can see the report. Okay, now we're in Excel. And so, like I was mentioning before, you would get the error. So we only have 57 line items, so we're definitely under that 10,000. But usually what I would do at this point is scroll all the way to the bottom, and then you would see that the report would say the report was not able to pull all the information. And usually it says that like just after the 10,000th line row within Excel. Okay. And so this is how you pull the report. Now I can see all the expense reports that were processed last year on this budget number. We're not a very travel heavy department. And you can actually see myself on there. So I'm one of the expense reports. And so one thing that you need to know is you'll notice that it will repeat the same expense report. And that is because how the report works is it runs it multiple times based on how many line items there are. So you'll see, so my expense report was for a couple Ubers for doing some training. And so I had the car service line item a couple times on there. So that was for the 2 Ubers that I had taken. And so that's why it's split into 2 different things right here. One thing to note, so this ER total, so you'll notice it repeats 2316 twice, and then if you come to look at this next expense report for Mark Conley, you'll see that the ER total is then 2,197.14. It's repeating that. And so that does not mean that each of those line items is that amount. That is actually the total for that expense report. And then if you come to this amount row or amount column is the amount of each of those line items. So if you add the 1223 to the 1093, that equals the total of the expense report. And then same goes for if you take a look at this one. So if you start to add these rows up, then you'll notice, okay, it equals 2,197. And so one thing that is super useful to know in Excel is, I know a lot of departments do this, and when I've worked with these reports, one thing that is good to know is to know how to remove the duplicates, because let's say you're trying to just figure out, so let's say I was trying to determine what the total spend was for that budget number for the expense reports. If I totaled all these up, after what I explained to you, now I'm sure you realize that this would not be the correct total because it's repeating the ER total multiple times. So what you need to do to sort of clean up the data is to remove the duplicates. And let's go ahead and just take a look at how you go about that. Share my screen again. There we go. Okay, and so to do that, what you can do is, the best way to do it is to actually sort the data by and turn it into a table. I'm going to go ahead and delete these rows at the top. So if you click over here and then highlight these, right click, then you can delete those rows. If you leave them there, it's not a big deal. This would still work anyways, just to make it look a little cleaner. And so to turn it into a table, what you need to do is you need to highlight all of these, all the different rows. So I use the shift key to go like this, but you can also drag this bar around to do the same thing. And once you get to here, you can click Control Shift down, and that'll bring you to the bottom. But you can also click and drag like I showed you before. But what you need to do is you need to highlight all the information. That's the important part. So if I go like this, so notice that grand total's down there, so don't highlight the grand total. That's not part of the data. You don't want that to be part of the table. It'll get confused. So ignore that part, and then you want this green box to just be surrounding all of the information, including all the information at the top. And let's see where it is. So right here, it's under Home. I mean, again, this also depends on what Excel version you're in, but Format as a Table should be in any of the Excel versions that you're using. But if you click Format as a Table right here, and then you can choose your the theme. I'm just going to go ahead and click the first one that pops up, since it doesn't really matter. But just know, yeah, you can change the theme if you like. And it's saying where's the data for your table, and so this is just saying oh yeah, I want to do all this information. But if you kind of double check, you can see how the lines are dotted, and it's it's including everything. So I know it's going to turn it into a table properly. Okay. All right, looks like I'm getting an error. So this is good that we ran into this error, because it's something you probably run into also. And so what it doesn't like is that I have these filters up here. So if you see these drop downs, those are what are referred to as filters. So let's go ahead and remove those. So if I come here, come to the top, and right here, the same place in Home, Sort and Filter, you can see that the filter is highlighted. So if I click this, it'll remove it. So now you can see those drop downs have disappeared. And now I'm just going to follow those exact same steps. So I come over here and highlight. I'm going to highlight everything again, and then let's format as a table. And we're going to use this one. Hopefully it goes through. There we go. And just to double check, you can always tell it's a turn table. You can see now it's one row is gray, one is white. It usually does like an alternating theme like that. So that's how a mental check, I know that it works. Okay. And the next thing we're going to do is remove the duplicates. So the information that I'm kind of showing an example of obtaining, like I mentioned before, just as a reminder, is I want to figure out what my total spend was last year on this budget number. And so again, because we have all these duplicates, my data would be messed up because of that. Another useful information that you can pull when you remove the duplicates is you can determine, and I'll show you how you do this as well, is determining just the count of ER, so just the volume, the number of them that were processed. Again, if I try to count all of these, because of the duplicates, I would be getting more than what the true data is. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove the duplicates. And how we're going to remove the duplicates is just the best way to do it is the duplicates are in this column right here, report ID. So you can see, 633007, that ER number is being repeated multiple times. So there's a function in Excel that knows how to remove all those. So, and to do it properly, you have to turn it into a table. It's just the way Excel goes. But the next thing we're going to do is actually highlight all the information. Again, just like we did for the table. So now we're highlighted, and then I'm gonna come back to home. And where we need to go is, in this version of Excel, I'm using Excel to 2016, in case you're curious. And the tab we're going to go to is data right here, and then there's one that says remove duplicates. You can also use like the search function up here. If you type in remove duplicates, it should come up. But once you found it, you click remove duplicates, and then it's going to ask you which columns you want to remove the duplicates from. And this is an important step. Make sure that you uncheck everything except for that row that we want to remove them from. The reason this is important is if there's other duplicates in other columns, it's just gonna remove those as well, and then you might just be getting rid of an expense report altogether. Then obviously that could mess up your information. So we just wanted to do it once, and the duplicates are in the report ID row. That's the ER row, expense report row. And so we just leave that checked, and then we click OK. And 35 duplicate values found and removed. So now, after we get to this point, now our data is clean, and we're down to just the ER number with the total and all that. And so now, okay, back to the information I'm trying to solve. So I want to figure out what's my total ER spend for that year, and what's my the amount of expense reports that I had processed. And so pretty simple Excel functions. And so what you can do is just add up this this column right here. If you go equals sum, and then what you need to do, so this is the F column. So you want it to go from F2 to F17. And then I know I got it right because I can see that blue bar will appear. And 9,085, and to make it look the way it should, so the format is general, but if you come to home, you can change it to, I like the way accounting visually shows things. If you ever see these hash marks like that, that just means that that cell is too small and it's not showing the information. What I usually do is come up here and double click, and then it'll show me what the value is. Okay, and so what we spent on travel, so very low volume travel department, $9,085.95 was the yearly travel spend. And then the other useful information you can pull from here is you can count this one's easy to count. We're only got row 2 through 17, so we know that's 15. But if you have a bunch of rows, this could be a little bit more of a pain to just go through and count them, or minus the rows and all that. There's a function called equals count A, and then our column is A2 to A17. And if we do that, so our count then is going to be 16. So we processed a total of 16 expense reports with a spend of $9,085.95. Okay, so those are kind of the two main uses that I see. And then just remember, you can go by the year. You could run monthly reports of this. If you're reporting to your leadership and they want to know how much you're spending per month, how much you're spending every quarter, how much you're spending every year, all you have to do is go back to that report, set the custom date range, turn it into a table, remove those duplicates. Reminder, just remove the duplicates from this row, and then you can use those functions to find out that information. So and then of course there could be other uses for these reports, but those are from my years in travel, those are what seem to be what they're used for the most. All right, now let's go back to Ariba, and I'm going to show you how to do it based on organization code. And we're not going to run through every single thing like this because what we just did right here is actually the exact same. I just want to highlight that you can, instead of just budget number, that you can go by object code as well. So I'm going to switch my screen. Let's go back to Ariba. Here we go. Okay. So again, I'm going to go back to manage and then reports. Again, expense reports for travel. And so this one, again, was how we can do it by budget number. If we come down here, expense report group by for a specific org code. Let's go ahead and click that. Okay. And so what you can do, and so this report's kind of nice as well. You can actually set this one by org code and by budget number. And so let's go ahead and just do the what we did last time. So last year. And then another thing I did mention before, you can actually set the report based on the current status. So keep in mind that reports can be in different statuses, and I'll just go ahead and highlight what those different statuses are. So if you don't know already. So submitted, the important ones are going to be to look at are submitted, denied, and processed. I would go ahead and ignore processing and approved. These were actually old statuses that used to exist in expense reports, but they no longer exist. So the ones to really keep in mind are submitted, denied, and processed. And the same information goes to when I was showing you the report before. And so those different statuses. So submitted status means that the preparer has submitted the report and it's still going through the approvals, and it remains in submitted status from the moment it's submitted until that final approval is given. The moment that final approval is given, then it turns into process. And so I would say for the most part, people are running reports based on process because they just want to know, they don't want to include things that haven't finalized yet. It's usually people are running reports based on things that are finalized. And so when I ran the report before, it showed everything was processed because we only had things that were processed in there. But if you want to report just to figure out which ones are submitted, you could do that as well. And then you can also run a report based on being denied. Being in denied status, which could be helpful if you're just trying to figure out, okay, I want to run a report right now, currently what's going on, or with expense reports, which ones are currently in denied status based on my org code or my budget number. It's something that departments definitely use as well. Okay. And so I'm going to go ahead and just show you the example. So 208-020400. And let's run in Excel. So it just takes a moment to run the data. So I'll just hang out for a second. And let's just go ahead and share the screen. And so you'll see, again, this report is very similar. So, and so it's a little bit different because our that budget number was a little bit more focused. So this data is not going to be the same. So we're running it based on org code, but this is our org code. So as you can imagine, this has a little bit more volume on it. So I'm not going to walk through how to do the table and those calculations again. So if you are now at this point in the video and you need to, you're trying to determine the ER total and that count, remember you're going to turn it into a table, remove the duplicates, and then you can run those functions. And so this is the exact, you'd be following those exact same steps that I showed you in the video. So you can just refer back, watch it again, and you can see turn into a table, remove duplicates, and then you can find those totals. All right. Well, that's everything that I have for you. So thanks for tuning into the video. Be sure to check out our training page. We have other pages, other videos as well. Another one to definitely know about. So we have training related to how to process an expense report, how to make a travel profile, and we're also making some other videos about these reports and other things you can do with them. So make sure to check those out. If you have any questions about the content that you saw in this video, make sure that you reach out to our office. If you just Google UW Travel Services, our homepage will come up. It just says, welcome to UW Travel Services as the homepage. But we can be reached at travel@uw.edu. Again, that's travel@uw.edu. And our phone number is 206-543-5858. Again, that's 206-543-5858. Or if you're calling from a university phone, the extension is 35858. I will thank you again for tuning in, and we look forward to working with you in travel. Thank you.